Hello, everyone, and welcome to this day's GLF Live. It's a great live that we are joining here with Hannah Simmons and Jeannette Gurung. And we are looking forward to you as our viewers being able to participate in this day. And just a quick introduction to who are joining us today. We have Jeannette. She's the founder and executive director at WOCAN, Women Organizing for Change in Agriculture and Natural Resource Management. WOCAN is a global network to support advocacy and capacity building for gender mainstreaming, women's leadership, and women empowerment within the agriculture and natural resource management sectors. Whereas we have Hannah Simmons, she's the founder and CEO of Ecosystem Regeneration Associates, shortly known as ERA, a female-driven carbon project developer based in Brazil, and is also known for her pioneering conservation work in the Cerrado biome. So over to you, and I would like you please to continue introducing yourselves, please. Can you, Jeannette and Hannah, thank you for joining us. Jeannette, can you give us some background on WOCAN?
Yes, thank you very much, Ida. So as mentioned, WOCAN is a women-led global network. We have about 1,450 members in about 118 countries. All of the members have expertise in agriculture and natural resource management with varying levels of expertise and interest in gender. Our purpose is to advance women's empowerment and collective action to tackle climate change, poverty, food insecurity, and to create the enabling environments for that to happen. So we have about 25 core associates, trainers, W+ standard experts in Africa, Latin America, and Asia that provide climate and gender services for gender training, gender assessment, gender action plan development, and technical assistance for the W+ standard. The W+ standard, which is primarily what we'll be discussing here today, is something that is designed and owned by WOCAN. It is the first globally recognized framework that measures, certifies, and monetizes women's empowerment using a market-based payment for results approach. It was established by us in 2014 and designed in a way that follows the same processes as carbon measurement. It measures impacts and has certified projects in 13 countries to date, endorsed by the UNFCCC, and received its Women for Results Award for a biogas project in Nepal. It has been endorsed by Vera, the World Bank, UN Red, Shell Foundation, and many others. And if I could just add a little bit more about this. So a key component of the W+ standard that makes it different than almost all the carbon standards is the benefit sharing requirement. And so at least 20% of the revenues from the sale of W+ credits, which are generated from a certified project, these must be granted to local women's groups who can use those funds for their own self-determined climate adaptation activities. So the hope of WOCAN is that the W+ standard can shift financial flows towards land use models that are more equitable and inclusive by recognizing and rewarding women's critical contributions to this, and by incentivizing integrated landscape projects that support mitigation and adaptation activities that significantly contribute to women's empowerment. And here we're not talking about just measuring numbers of women engaged in things. We are actually looking at the impact of doing so. And I would like to argue that this topic must be elevated on the global stage, such as the GLF, because although women are key to the solutions to sustainable landscape efforts, particularly those involving agroforestry like Hannah's doing, and agriculture, and protecting and restoring ecosystems, women receive only a tiny proportion of climate-related finance and development assistance. And the chronic underfunding of women's organizations and women's environmental activities, it presents a significant opportunity where financing can be redirected to have a much greater impact than it currently does. So using this results-based financing and market-based approach, our objective at WOCAN is to tap into climate mitigation finance and carbon markets to provide capital for local women's organizations and enterprises with revenue and technical assistance to support their mitigation and adaptation initiatives, while also providing investors with financial and social returns on their investments. So therefore, and here's to sum it up, this is the solution for integrating gender and climate finance to support both gender equality and climate results, including those related to green supply chains, climate smart agriculture, voluntary carbon markets, outcome-linked funds and bonds, et cetera, et cetera. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Jeannette. Over to you, Hannah. Would you please tell us a little bit about ERA, Brazil's pollen program?
Yes, for sure. It's such an honor to be here with you, Ida, and Jeannette. So everything that Jeannette said, I try and put in practice. So ERA is a female-led, female-founded boutique carbon project developer. We are based in Brazil, and we have our pioneering work in the Cerrado biome, which is known as one of the most biodiverse grasslands in the world. And the Cerrado is severely threatened. We've already lost 50% of this massive biome. It's the second largest biome in Brazil after the Amazon to commercial agriculture. And that has a series of impacts, right, on the smallholder communities. It has impacts on the water. It has impacts on the animals and the fauna. And it has impacts on the entire ecosystem, right? So the Cerrado is home to many watersheds and rivers that flow towards the Amazon. So it's this massively important biome that has a lot of medicinal properties in the plants, and it's a very unique biome, and we're losing it. And this is affecting the culture as well. So as we go into this monocropping system, you get a monoculture, right? So what ERA is doing is we're trying to pay farmers through the carbon markets to keep their surplus forests standing. So we use the REDD+ approach, and we use Verra, which is the voluntary carbon markets leading standard to develop carbon credit projects. And what we do is we get into partnerships with these farmers, and we conserve their forests for 30 years. And we do that by monitoring carbon stocks, making sure the farmer doesn't deforest and expand his soy or his cattle production into these surplus forests. And what happens is when you do carbon projects, you need to share the benefits with the smallholder farmers. So we call it the Robin Hood approach. So you take from the large landholders, which are normally very rich agribusiness companies, and we distribute part of the carbon funds to the smallholding communities around these large farms. And these smallholding communities are typically subsistence agricultural based. There's not a lot of opportunity, not a lot of access to resources, not a lot of access to technical assistance, and not a lot of access to inputs. So what ERA does is we support these communities by building resilience, by educating them, and by actually financing agroforestry systems, because agroforestry systems, in our view, is a key to many of the world's problems, because it's a mitigation and an adaptation solution, right? You're helping farmers create a food supply, create income streams, and you're supporting these communities to really lift them out of poverty situations and actually put food on the table. Not to mention the climate benefits, right? As you transform a degraded area into a food forest that's producing 12, 15, 20 different types of species of food in one area, imagine the climate benefits. You're taking CO2 out of the atmosphere and you're storing it in the biomass and in the soil. So ERA is building this program. We've been 2 years in it, and we have been conserving 17,000 hectares of Cerrado. It's a grouped program, meaning that we are scaling the program programmatically, so we can scale in and bring in new farmers as we scale our efforts and our marketing. And convincing them is not easy, right? Because soy farming is such a traditional means of economic source, right? So the farmers don't see the forest as a money-making machine. They see the forest as, oh, that darn forest, if I could only have a soy field there, it would give me more money. So they're very economically based. I mean, as all humans are, right? They're businessmen. So if you can make that farmer see value and see economic value in his forests, then there's more likely he will conserve that, right? And then it diversifies also their revenue streams. So the farmer has his soy field, he has his cattle, he has his forests, and he then has this diversified revenue streams. And as we go into climate chaos, it's, you know, diversification means resilience. So the pollen program is basically our co-benefits program, where we get carbon revenues and we implement agroforestry systems. So we started with a learning hub, and a learning hub is basically an agroforestry plot where we give courses, bring students to this plot to learn how to interact with agroforestry systems, plant, manage, harvest, process the species that we're planting. So we just harvested our first turmeric, you know, that orange powder that you put in spices, and it's very high in antioxidants. So we just harvested our first turmeric, and we have now developed 2 learning hubs. We've impacted over 300 students and 300 youth who are participating in these courses, the next generation of farmers, right? So it's very important because typically these farmers didn't have access to agroforestry. They had no idea what it was. So we came into this school, this family agriculture school, and we offered this new type of curriculum for these students, a curriculum based on regenerative agriculture, regenerative practices, and their eyes just lit up when they learned about agroforestry. And what we did now is we actually train a group of these youngsters who are, you know, between 16 and 18 years old, and we train them on agroforestry. And the ones who are most interested, we actually go back to their family's farm and we implement their own agroforestry system for them to keep practicing and keep training. And we actually hired one of the girls who participated in our program. So this girl was this bright shining star in our program, and she said, I really want to work for ERA. And we said, great, if we want to scale our efforts, we need to focus on education, because if no one knows how to plant agroforestry in the community, how am I going to scale agroforestry? So the first step is really creating this learning foundation, and so you can build the capacity, and then from there you can scale programs organically once you have the knowledge aspect in. So yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit about our work, but I could go on for hours.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for such a strong introduction. And I'll move over to Jeannette. Maybe you could tell us more about WOCAN and the W+ standard. So how do these work together, and why did WOCAN design a standard at the end of the day? It would be very interesting to know.
Thanks, Ida. And I think I've already described, I think both Hannah and I have given very long introductions, so we probably need to move more directly into the script. We designed a standard based on, you know, WOCAN is almost 20 years old, and for 20 years we have an experience of building capacities for gender mainstream or integration within landscape-related sector organizations. And what we've realized maybe 7 years ago was this is maybe necessary but not sufficient to get the kind of desired results we're all looking for. I think there's a lot of evidence now that points to the fact that gender mainstreaming alone cannot get us where we need to go. And so we thought maybe we need to incentivize these kind of landscape-oriented organizations and projects in order to increase their attention to and provide funding for activities for gender and women's empowerment. And primarily for WOCAN, the reason we're doing this is because we are seeking ways to provide revenue, new forms of capital and grants to women's organizations at all levels, not only the grassroots level, but all the way up the supply chain to women-led enterprises like Hannah's. And we argue they really must be included if we're to reach climate goals. And right now we are nowhere close to that situation. So in about 2013, 2014, we were learning about carbon measurement and very much inspired by carbon markets as a rigorous way to monetize environmental impacts and channel capital to environmental projects. And we had this wild idea, could we do the same for women's empowerment? So I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Moving over to you, Hannah. So could you tell us about the gender core benefits of the ERA program?
For sure. So like I said, we've impacted all of these youth and this next generations of farmers, right? And every one of our actions, at least 50% are women. So we have a policy within ERA that all of our courses and all of our technical assistants and all of our actions, 50% are women. So as I started learning about the W+ standard and learning that, you know, it brings this additional level of metrics and procedures to actually quantify how you've impacted a woman's life, and how that metrics can then translate into units that can then be sold along with the carbon credits, a light bulb just went off in my head. I said, well, that's amazing. Finally, something that brings value to the actions, the social actions and the women's empowerment actions that we're doing. So for me, it was a no-brainer to add and incorporate the W+ standard into our processes and our project development activities. So how are we impacting women? We impact women through 3 of the 6 domains that W+ offers, which is knowledge and education. So like I said, we build the foundation, we impact women and improve their knowledge and education within agroforestry and processing foods and really being a regenerative farmer. Then comes the second one, which is income generation. So once the agroforestry system has been implanted on the farmers on her farm, then she can then start harvesting foods and selling them into the market, or harvesting foods and eating them within her own family system. So then she needs to pay less in the market. So her income is being increased. And third is the leadership domain. And the leadership domain is very beautiful because it's sort of, it's this longer journey that we see this women go on, right? So we accompany her throughout this journey. So first starting with courses, then starting with, you know, helping her process and helping her commercialize her products. And as she goes through this process, she becomes more empowered. So she becomes more of a leader within the family system and within her community. And then we apply the leadership questionnaires to really see how this transformation has affected her and how she feels as a leader. So that's sort of a bit about how we're applying the W+ standard in our project. And we will be the first carbon project developer to issue carbon credits with the W+ certification attached or labeled to the carbon credit. So that will allow me to sell my carbon credit for more money and to make it a premium carbon credit. So it's different than the neighbor next door who's selling, you know, his Amazon credits. My credit's going to be slightly different. And I want aligned buyers who value women's empowerment and value climate mitigation and adaptation, all this bundled work that I'm doing, so that the carbon price that I'm receiving is, you know, 50% more than what the market is. So that's why I'm really doing it.
Yeah, I can see actually the glow in Jeannette's face already. So Jeannette, over to you. So what does the way it's being applied in Brazil, what does it mean to you?
So I'm thrilled that the glow is coming across the Zoom camera. That's wonderful. I mean, for us, Hannah is I call her the poster girl. I mean, she is the ideal for us of what we would love to see. And as she mentioned, she's the first one that's doing the carbon measurement that's linked to W+ certification. And she's a woman-owned company. And Hannah herself, as she tells you more about her background, it just makes her an ideal project for be the first ones. And you know, the fact that it's in a part of Brazil where forests are under pressure, she's able to also articulate the importance of leadership, which I think is surprising to us. It's one of the 6 domains, as Hannah had mentioned. So far, no one has used it. And I think for us, this has maybe been a bit disappointing. I mean, leadership underlies, as Hannah indicated, so many other activities and true aspects of true empowerment and gender equality. So I think, you know, as you see, Hannah has understood the whole catalytic value of adding training on women's leadership. that can lead to building women's skills and confidence to play larger roles in the regeneration of the savanna biome and to make progress towards gender equality. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Anna, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, for me, it's just such an honor to work with Jeannette because we both kind of vibrate at the same frequency with our love for women's empowerment. So yeah, we're on this journey. I think we're doing it. We're the first ones to do leadership, and it's going to be exciting. And we're working together with Jeannette's team, who have been wonderful. They came to Brazil. They did this full capacity building with us, helping us write the documentation, applying the gender analysis, applying the baseline questionnaires, and it's just been this really amazing process. And also for my team, I mean, we've been learning about gender equality, and we've been doing internal sessions with our employees. So we're 14, 80% of us are women, so we're a women-led team. And we've also been doing some internal sessions about gender, and it's been amazing, the transformation and the discussion that we're having. So one hour a week we meet to discuss about gender, and it's just been really, really an amazing process for myself personally, for my colleagues, my employees, and then for the women who we're working with. So it's, yeah, I get goosebumps just talking about it. It's very exciting.
I think the goosebumps are being felt all over this currently. Yeah. So I think it will be better for us if Jeannette could just go on and summarize, like in 3 sentences, what is the W+ standard?
Yeah, before I do that, you see, Hannah, for us, this is what we were trying to achieve. Even women-led projects don't necessarily understand the gender-related impacts of what they're doing and how they can do it. And so what Hannah didn't mention, Hannah herself is comes out of the carbon markets and the carbon world, and has understood for many, many years how to measure carbon. We find that's pretty rare. We ourselves are trying to look for other, and Hannah wants to help us as well, build a network of these kind of women-led companies that are measuring carbon. There could be so many more. This is an immense opportunity for women's enterprises as well as organizations to get engaged, not feel terrified by a carbon market or carbon measurement. And so bringing both the carbon world together with the sort of gender equality world is rather unique. And right now it's a rather narrow space, but we're trying to enlarge that. So I think just to get to your 3 sentences point, I do have 3 sentences actually. I'll say the W+ standard, it's a certification framework that provides metrics and procedures to quantify, verify, and monetize women's empowerment results within projects and supply chains. It provides a practical approach to sustainable landscape project teams that can use it to support women farmers, women's groups, and women-led enterprises to generate carbon and gender credits. It provides a way to provide direct payments to women as well as to the project developers like Hannah. And lastly, it enables a way for investors and for companies to confidently support their claims for women's empowerment, SDG 5 goals, and the S of ESG through the purchase of W+ credits or W+ certified carbon credits. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jeannette. And over to you, Hannah. Any last summaries that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I would just like to kind of touch upon one thing that Jeannette said, which is inspiring women to take a chance and try and be an entrepreneur, you know, and have the confidence to, and get a mentor and get people who you like to work with and just go for it. I mean, we have nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
We're in this climate catastrophe. But I don't like to see it like that. I like to see it as a climate opportunity. And we need women stepping up because we are really here to help solve the climate crisis. I mean, we're female. We have this female energy, which is linked to Mother Earth, right? She's our mother. So we really have this intuition, and we need to tap into that. And we need to bring these messages and bring these activities and bring this power, this force that we have within ourselves for change. So I'd like to leave everyone with just an inspiration of go out there, try. I mean, I came from, obviously, I'm Canadian. I was very lucky because I had a father and he was an entrepreneur. So I grew up in this entrepreneurial household, and he was in carbon markets. So he built one of the first carbon projects in Africa and the DRC, and he did many reforestation projects in Canada. And I remember working as a little carbon warrior at the tree planting, his little trees. And it was great. And it was this amazing learning that I had and experience that I had. And then I was so inspired by the work that he was doing that I said, I want that, and I want to go forward with this mission. So I would just like to pass on this message that everyone out there who feels the little itch inside or the little voice inside, to just go for it, participate in this regeneration movement, because we need it. We need you, and every little tree that's in the ground makes a difference. So there's no small work. It's all amazing work, and let's the more we work together, the further we go. So thank you so much.
I think it was a very lovely session to have both of you. I've learned so much, a lot, and I'm sure also the viewers will have also learned a lot from this session, learning about the W+ standard, learning about the work of ERA, learning about your work, Jeannette and Hannah, as people, and all the investment that you not put in just as work, but as personally, you can be able to see that. And it will be interesting to continue following these conversations. And as well, everybody who has been with us today here, we look forward to you attending our next JLF Live. Thank you.